You know, I sometimes imagine what would happen with the system. You know, with society, governments, all of the structures, infrastructures. What would happen if it kind of derailed, if it collapsed? A lot of people think that the government are controlling things or looking after things. Some people think that there's other higher groups, corporations are running the show. At the end of the day, human beings are running the show. And as I've lost faith in governments, and also I don't see how society can exist with a government that forces the people to do what it says. I don't believe that the greater good can be represented by the lesser evil. And so I imagine, okay, if I don't get it my way, if the world doesn't happen like I want it, if it isn't the paradise that I can imagine, if it isn't the ultimate mathematical equation, what would it be? What happens when the train derails itself? What happens when the storm hits? You know, generally, if you was on a bus or an aeroplane as a tourist going to some island, and suddenly there was a crash landing in the middle of a desert island, you couldn't really expect the tourist company to instantly solve everything. You know, you're there, and there's a lot of people with you, and it's about people getting along, and a small society just comes out of that naturally. And so looking at that on a whole, looking at that on an economical and capitalistic basis, what had happened to businesses, what had happened to roads, schools, hospitals, services, all of these things that we call public services are just as private and just as human as everything else, you know. So there's people giving services to other people in the form of product or time or skill. Government's only really there to protect the people. But in that protection there should be a kind of healing. And it's not like you get a wound and that wound is then being protected. It needs maybe sewing, or it maybe needs operation, and not just protection. And so we can protect from wounds, from cuts and harm. Sometimes that's just not enough. And so because money is instantly there, it's an evaluation. If you're swapping apples with oranges, you evaluate it. Even if you're swapping apples for somebody else's apples, is it the same quality? Is it twice as good? You've instantly made a mathematical evaluation, which is the creation of a money, in a way, a currency. And so whether that gets transferred to a piece of paper or gold or whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. It's still there. And so money isn't really the problem, and greed isn't really the problem. You can't stop people being greedy. And people can be greedy in real deceitful ways. And sometimes one person's greed helps a lot of other people, maybe. I'm not justifying greed in any way, but it's there, and it's an individual's choice. And we've got a society, a system, a government that makes it possible for certain people to be greedy legally, to steal legally, to trick other people legally. And that system's growing, it's globalising itself, it'll fight itself, it'll eat itself. Of course I care, but one person can only do so much, a group of people can only do so much. And one of the main things is to be in touch with nature. And when a system collapses, that natural law kicks in, the natural human ways kick in, and people are capable of unbelievable things. The capacity to love and the capacity to understand and trust and share. The mutual fear and mutual greed. When everybody realised that everybody else is just as greedy, just as scared, just as untrusting, then it's equal. And then everybody can earn a trust. But there's a deep down love. There's a love there because that's what makes us resonate. That's what we seek in each other. And companies. If companies were just free to expand and grow like they should, we, the consumers, would vote with our money. If a company was a good company, producing a good product, it would get more money. A bad company would get less money, and would get ostracised, would get banded out of society. Free journalism would shed the light on things. Society would run in a natural way with all of these technical capabilities. There's some things that we have to accept and some things that we have to be very careful of, like technology and the virtual reality, because at some point money will become global, it will become electronic, if not already. And so each one of us as bank account holders of that electronic money needs some kind of identification. And so that's where it kind of starts to get a difficult subject, especially when we've got a government. You know, a lot of these problems that I see in the world, I still see people are blaming the government. And I think that it's the people shouldn't rely on the government to do everything for them. So no wonder there's a problem. Okay, I'll leave it there for this one. Basically what I wanted to say is, that money and greed and power and all of these things are totally normal, natural things and will have their own interplay. But by expecting somebody else to look after you doesn't solve the problem. Okay, thanks a lot for watching and listening. I hope that made any sense whatsoever. And thanks, yeah. Have a good time. Cheerio.